Charles
McCree.
Like, he just motivates me to do more with my life.
Confident, diligent, hardworking.
When you ask him to be there, he'll be there.
Charles was born January 8, 1979 in North Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Charles would always tell me stories about him growing up, about how his parents, his mother and father, would not allow him to watch BET or MTV or read hip-hop magazines. They felt that the music industry was not a way for him to make money or pay the bills. And Charles, being the type of person that he went against the grain and pursued his dreams of becoming a music mogul.
Was referred to me by someone. He called, he was going to DeVry, and you know, it takes a long time for interns in our department to kind of get on board because they have to go through paperwork and all this other stuff. And he called us every single day for, I think, 6 months. Just kept calling and calling and calling until we finally just said, okay, just come.
Half of the year gone, and all the blessings you were waiting for haven't come yet. All the changes you said you were going to make.
I'm Frank Ski, host of the Frank and Wanda Morning Show on V103 in Atlanta. Charles originally started on the Frank and Wanda Morning Show as one of our interns. And then he was really desiring to be in the business even more. So he started volunteering after his internship was over. And he was just always somebody, he was a go-to guy whenever you needed stuff done.
First impressions of Charles was that he was crazy. I mean, he came into my office, he knocked on the door when I was in the middle of working, and he said, "Hi, I'm Charles McCree, I'm the next Russell Simmons." And immediately my ears perked up because that's what I had read. And so I was like, oh, this is the guy who's insane. And you get so many interns that come in very hungry, but not those that stay hungry throughout the entire internship process.
He was definitely a good listener. He would always be on time. He came to work dressed properly every day. He really listens well, and I like that about him. If he don't understand something, he'll ask you over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, which is a good thing because he really wants to get, you know, the right idea about what he's doing. Anything that we've ever asked him to do, he's done it, whether it was inside or outside the radio station. I thought that Charles was one of our better interns.
Charles would come into my office and sit and talk while I was working, and he would say, "What are you doing? What is that you're doing now? Or can I sit in with you on record day?" And record day is when I sat with all the labels and told them if they had a hit record or not. So he started to get a thirst for that and a hunger for that and wonder what it was that made music that next big thing. Why was the music industry so important? Why did this hip-hop artist work and this hip-hop artist didn't? Why was Jay-Z so successful, yet Joe Schmo wasn't successful after his first big single? Charles wanted to know how it worked. He's the type of kid that probably took apart a radio just to find out how it worked. And it was a brand new radio. That's what he did to the music industry. Like, he dissected it. He sat, he watched me. Every day I would look up. He was opening my mail. He was going to give me lunch. I didn't even want him to do any of these things, but that's just Charles.
Charles was always willing to do stuff, no matter what the job entailed. Charles was willing to do it. And I think what really impressed me is that Charles was never late. Like, Charles is like always on. Even when Charles didn't have a car, he was always on time. And I was like, okay, Charles, where are you sleeping? Like, I was thinking that Charles was really sleeping in the staircase at the radio station because he was always there, always on time, never late. And there was nothing out of the ordinary that Charles wouldn't want to do.
What I find about doing internships, which is what it separates the adults from the little kids. You could be 30 saying, I don't want to do an internship because I'm bigger than that. No, you're not. You know, interning is your in. It is your key to open the door. You have to get in and you have to grind, and Charles recognized that. You cannot come in saying, you know, I'm the next Russell Simmons if you ain't willing to work like Russell Simmons. And Charles came in grinding like Russell Simmons. Like, Russell just got the idea yesterday. I saw him, he was the same. He was diligent in what he wanted to do. He was extremely focused. Everything that you've been hearing about him is real. This is what I've set out for myself. I'm gonna say it out loud so I hear it and I believe it, but I'm gonna say it out loud so other people hear it and they know that this is my destiny. And Charles has set his destiny from day one. And even by 2 weeks after me knowing him, he was still, hey Tasha, it's Charles, the next, I know, I get it, the next Russell Simmons. But not only did he make saying it his everyday mantra, it became my mantra. It was, hey Charles, the next Russell Simmons, or, you know, hey Charles, the next go-getter.
You know, the thing that stands out the most about Charles is that when we talk about getting into the industry, one thing that we always stress is that you have to live, eat, breathe this to make it happen. And that's something that Charles always does. Every time you see him, his mind is always on getting into the industry and making it big and being the next Kevin Liles or someone to that, you know, to that magnitude.
No matter what Charles was going through, no matter how difficult or how easy it was doing the job, he was the same, consistent, always told himself, this is the step that I have to take to get closer to my goal. He took that step that he got from the radio station, knew what I did, what other people did at the radio station, and he became Kelly Price's music rep. And he was bringing me Kelly's new single, and even before some of the labels were, and that wasn't his job. But he saw an opening and he took it. He saw that door and he walked straight through it.
Well, you know, Charles is dependable. And, you know, when you're dealing in the lifestyle that we have, we're dealing with a bunch of irresponsible, not dependable people. So it's always good to have somebody very dependable around you. And Charles is definitely that. I've seen him grow in a lot of areas. You know, being personally, you know, associated with him, being able to travel with him and see him grow up as a man. I've seen the maturity catch on. You know, I've seen him from an intern hanging out into the clubs to where now he's a grown man coming to the clubs. You know, the difference in how he acts, the difference is how he dresses, the difference in how he talks, the difference is how he handles himself in certain situations. I've been able to see that. So I've been able to see a maturing phase in him, you know, go along the way. And I think that happens to everybody. And I think it's good that he's maturing now, you know, as he's gaining his respect in the industry. Charles is like a chameleon. He can adapt. And that's the thing about Charles. If I sit Charles behind the desk and ask him to do paperwork, well, that's what you're going to do. If I ask him to, you know, get out on the field during Kids Week and play with, you know, 1,000 Atlanta kids, that's what Charles is going to do. You know, if I have Charles standing outside of a club passing out tapes, that's what Charles is going to do. So he's a chameleon. He can go back and forth between all those. And that's what makes him special. You know, he's always got a clean look, and that's important too. You know, I can't send every intern in every situation. I just can't do it. You know, Charles is one of those people that I would be confident to be able to send in any type of situation.
So he was very instrumental in bridging that gap between, you know, unknown technology companies so they can do X, Y, Z, and then the artist, you know, who has the talent. He was very instrumental in bringing, you know, bridging that gap between us and the artist.
He pretty much came on to help us deal with the, let's say, talent side of the business, managing those relationships, getting artists to sign up, dealing with the labels, promoters, managers, that type of thing.
You know, if you got to get a deal done, or if something is up in the air and something needs to happen, Charles is definitely the man to see it through 100% and make sure it happens. And you know, that's one thing that sets Charles different from a lot of other people you do business with.
I see Charles in the future head of a label, and I say that because it's his spirit. Charles is already sees where he wants to go. He's come from intern to working with an artist, from interning at a radio station, seeing what it takes to get your record played, what it takes to work with personalities, what it takes to talk to listeners at a radio station. Then his next step was working with an artist to find out what that artist needs to do to produce the next hit record and what that artist needs to do to stay in the limelight to make that record successful.